we're here now to. This is more of an experiment, isn't it? I've played through Rise of the Tomb Raider. I was thinking
Yeah.
of I was going to do a bog standard video review for it, and then I thought, well, let's try and involve someone else. Let's try and have this as almost as a two-way conversation. Let's answer questions that people are likely to ask about Rise of the Tomb Raider, because in a review.
Ignorant loading installed.
Ignorant Logan installed. So what tends to happen with review is I put things that I think are important, but not necessarily covers other people's perspectives, either people that haven't played the game or people that have played the first one. So the aim of this review, I guess, is to try and cater for that and see if it works. It might be a complete disaster, so I guess there's no point faffing around and delaying this. Let's hit it off. Logan's going to basically interview me as part of this, and I'm going to answer the questions, and we're hopefully going to cover off a lot of things to do with Rise of the Tomb Raider, and we can see whether it works or not. So, Logan, do you want to? I'll hand over to you, and you can now lead this particular segment. New host installed.
Let's go for it. New host better.
Well,
Unlikely. We've been here before with me hosting. It hasn't gone well, so
yeah.
fucking can't keep control of it. But I suppose we'll try and keep a familiar.
I know what you
blown
mean.
it
Familiar kind of structure.
already.
Yeah.
Chucked it. Yep, familiar structure. So what we need to do is get your cards on the table.
Yeah, so I guess my history with Tomb Raider is that let's go to the classic Tomb Raider. So before the reboot, I think it's 2013. I only played through one, Tomb Raider 2, and I enjoyed it. I was very young at the time, very difficult. I cheated to get to the last level and couldn't do it because it wouldn't let you bypass that level on invincibility. So I never completed it. But going back to a more relevant game, I have played Tomb Raider, which was rebooted by Square Enix, a few years ago, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great game, and it was very good. It was up there. Looked like it was trying to rival Uncharted, and it done a decent job of contending for that. I guess I played this on the Xbox One. At the time, it was an Xbox One exclusive. It's now on PC, and we expect it to come to PlayStation 4 later this year. And that's probably about it, really. There's only those two bits really that are relevant to my previous history with this particular franchise.
Right, okay. So you've sort of played it before, and you've sort of experienced the Tomb Raider puzzle and shooting combination, which I think is similar in Uncharted as well.
Yeah, a bit lighter in Uncharted, but definitely features more prominently in this game.
Yeah, so I think if you can sort of talk us through the game a little bit, what you thought were the good points to start off with, and what you saw from it when sort of your first impressions as well would be interesting to understand.
Yeah, so when you first switch it on, you boot up your Xbox One. It's going to look even better on PC, but it looks fantastic. You know, you're introduced to a snowy kind of mountain. It's all you leave footprints. There's deep snow that you can fall through, and it slows you down. But honestly, the environments, the characters, they all look absolutely fantastic. So when you first put it on, the presentation part of it is great, and it performs really well as well. It doesn't chug in the frame rate. It's quite smooth. It's not quite 60, but it doesn't drop below 30, which I think is more important these days. That it's a consistent piece. And yeah, I guess the points I liked about it was that it was very familiar to the first game, the first reboot, I should say, and because that was a good game. That was a good game itself. There was not really much need to change it. The combat is familiar if you've played those games. It's kind of a loose cover system, so there's no sticky cover like was just, if you talk about something like The Division, that you stick to the cover. This, you just crouch near the cover and you're in it, and you can pop out using it. So it's a little bit more dynamic there, and you'll be introduced to about 2 to 3 open-ish worlds. Now, there's not cars rolling around. You're in the wilderness of Siberia, so you're in mountains, there's valleys and whatnot. There's a good variety of locations there, but they're quite big, and in those areas you can go off and explore. You can go off and do collectibles. You can go off and do side missions even they've introduced, and there's also optional tombs there for you to do, which I found the best. They were my favourite part of this, and they're pure puzzle solving. You'll enter a tomb, and you have to get to a certain point, and you have to work out how you can manipulate your surroundings and manipulate the pieces, bits and pieces there to get to that point. Finish an optional tomb, and you'll get a reward. You'll get a perk that you can add to Lara, and she'll increase something on us, one of her attributes. Because there is some light role play, sort of RPG elements to this, in the fact that you can upgrade and level up Laura as well, which is good.
Yeah, that was one of the things I'm glad you sort of led on to that, because one of the things I was going to say is that Lara Croft traditionally has been a sort of traditional sort of shooter and puzzle solving game.
Yeah.
There's been elements of using crossbows and things like that as it's developed, but I think this one sort of actively encourages you to sort of go scavenging and picking things up and crafting and leveling up, which is not probably what we'd usually expect from a Tomb Raider game. And how do you think that adds to it? Does this still feel like a great Tomb Raider game?
I guess it's very different to the classic Tomb Raiders. Like, if you put them together, they're night and day. Not just for the way they look, but the way they play. And you're right to ask me, is that a good thing? Now, this does certainly present you with more options. You know, you can build Lara in such a way that she'll react differently and be stronger in certain aspects of her game than others, and you can customize her. So I prefer having options personally. You know, I like the fact that you get an option and you can upgrade her and change her and whatnot. If you're not into all that, then this is probably going to be a bit of an aggravation, because it does focus. It's quite prominent, especially in the early parts of the game, because you want to get her up to scratch. You compare it to something like Uncharted. You have Nathan Drake, who is just Nathan Drake. You know, his abilities are all the same all the way through. You pick up weapons, and that's the only way you can sort of progress. Whereas this, you're constantly building Lara Croft up from the ground up. One of my main annoyances, I will say though, is that having played through the first game, very similar. It uses the same ideas, the same kind of crafting elements and upgrades. But one of my main annoyances was that when you start this game, everything's reset. Like, there's no explanation to why she's lost certain skills in the last 3 years, and that's a little bit of continuity there. It does bother me. It's a cheap way of making you do it all again, I find.
Yeah, so there's no continuity between the game that was released a couple of years ago and this one.
Not in terms of how skilled she is, no, because she seems to have forgotten everything. Like, the story's still there. The story kind of carries on. There's characters that you'll meet that you might recognise from the first one, but in terms
reset button installed.
Yeah, in terms of skills, I don't know what she's been doing. She must have been on the piss for the last 3 years.
Yeah, it's a shame. So I think that's sort of covered some of the positives. It leads nicely onto some negatives. I mean, one of the things that I saw was that people really enjoyed doing the puzzles on it, and people enjoyed doing that, but there's also a lot of combat, and some people found themselves going, right, okay,
it's a botherance.
Just going through it just so you can do the next puzzle. And that also Lara becomes almost Terminator-like. She becomes invincible, and you can just sort of stroll through it. And how do you feel about, does it reward you for being stealthy, or is it just talk me through it?
Yeah, so one of the things I saw in the lead up to this game was that it's meant to give you options. You know, you could approach it stealthily. You can get away with not killing people in certain sections, but you're right to bring up that. Does it reward you for doing that? Absolutely not in my opinion. First of all, the stealth mechanics aren't very tight. They're not very solid. It's very inconsistent, which is, if you're going to have a stealth game, if it's not very good, make sure it's at least consistent. So, you know, if you do this, it will lead to you being seen. If you don't do that, you won't. Whereas it seemed a little bit random. That's definitely one of the weaker points of it. And because of that, I decided not to do anything stealthily. Like, I'd use my bow where I could, because I felt that's a satisfying way to kill people. But I was never actively trying to avoid things. I was like, right, get rid of them, and they ain't going to come and bite me in the arse, because I don't want to be sitting in this bush and get caught out, which was happening a few times. So yeah, I think they tried to open it up, but I don't think they quite nailed that particular aspect of it. Yeah.
So do you find, is there enough variety across the weapons? I mean, I know that you can almost kill anyone in a variety of different ways, and you can sort of make it a challenge, if you like, to kill people differently. Sure. But is there a lot of variety there? Do you find yourself using it, or do you just find the most efficient way and go, right, that's it, done?
Yeah, there's a lot of variety there. I mean, the bow's very helpful because it's silence, so that does keep you out of just causing mayhem. So it is quite good to pick people off. That's one part of it that is good, I guess. It's not quite stealth because you're not getting through without killing anyone, but you can pick people off quite efficiently, which is good. Or you can just go in there. You could craft, a load of explosive or Molotovs and go in there with your AK and start clearing house. But I found that I died a lot doing that. So
is the crafting system on the fly a bit difficult because I know you can sort of get into cover and go, right, I want that, craft it, and then throw it.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that because I don't like the fact that you can just stock up 10 grenades and it's always there for you. I like the fact that it makes you kind of, you know, think outside the box and think, right, there's a bottle there, I need to use that. Bang, grab it, craft it, get them out of the way. And it does create that struggle, which I liked, and they borrowed that, I think, from The Last of Us, that had a on the fly kind of crafting system. So that's definitely a plus for me.
That's really good. So, taking all that into consideration, you know, is this a buy it or bin it game?
It's definitely a buy it. You know, it's no way this is a bad game whatsoever. It's a great game. It's a good game rather. It builds on what occurred on the reboot. So that would probably be, and I had this with Fallout as well, is that it doesn't push the series forward enough for me. It's very similar to the first one, which is great if you enjoyed it, and I did, but I expect sequels to do just a little bit more in terms of their ideas. Now, it did add more tombs to it. There's, you know, maybe a dozen or so tombs that you can go through, but there's still something there that I felt like I was still playing Tomb Raider, not Rise of the Tomb Raider. It didn't feel like I was playing the second installment. It's almost like an extension of the first, but it is a very good game, and that you can't deny it for that. If you've not played either of them, you'll love this game. You better jump in and have great fun with it. All the collectibles for it, an example, are all voiced. So none of this reading bollocks that lots of games do. They go, "Oh, pick up that note and read it." No, tell me every single thing you pick up is voiced, which I think's good. I love that, and the set pieces in it, they bring it on. It's a good mixture instead of action, puzzles, and exploration. So it's a good game, and it will minimalise the frustration of dying for you as much as it can. I.e., if you collect a resource and then die immediately after, that resource will stay with you. So if you've gone out your way to get something, then you
don't go
Yeah, so it doesn't just save beforehand, then you've got to do it all again. So if you go out and do something significant, it'll save it, and if you do die, it's very quick to reload back in. So it's good.
That's good then. Yeah. All round very positive.
Yeah, it's a very positive game. It's a good game, and those of you that have not got it, I would suggest you go out and get it.
On that basis, then, what is your official grading?
My official grading for Rise of the Tomb Raider is silver. So
that's not bad.
Comes in at a silver rating. It's never. Maybe if I was doing this for the original Tomb Raider reboot, that may have got a gold. So it's just kind of dropped off a little bit, just because I'm familiar with it, really. But in its own right, it stands on its own 2 feet. It's a very good game.